NASA decided that I'd have to be the one to be responsible for the LLTV. And so I had a GS-14 at the time, and I said, well, if you give me a GS-15 right now, I'll stay on. And they sort of made a mistake because they decided to make me wait, and then I had an offer from Bell to become the technical director on the LLTV, and it meant about $5,000 difference in the years. And at my young age, with 4 kids, I needed it, so I moved to Bell and was technical director because they were glad to have me because I was the government representative controlling all their money on the LLRB, which I've done a good job of because they ran out of money and Bickle didn't want to fund an overrun. And so I was responsible for taking on most of the work that Bell couldn't do. And so we paid for 20 people to work for me at Edwards to finish the LLRB program. So that was my Bell track record. And so they hired me, and I made a pretty good salary increase from the GS-15 even. And I was young enough to take it. So that's sort of my story.
So that's when we moved from Lancaster to Buffalo.
That's right. I moved about 20 times with my 4 kids.
We moved a lot.
So anyway.
So you left Lancaster at that time then, was that correct?
Yeah.
And you were working on that little airplane that went pretty fast at the time, the X-15, right? Before?
Yeah, before that, yeah.
Who was the guy that you carpooled with every day? Do you remember that? The last guy to fly the X-15, maybe?
Oh.
Bill
Dana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a nonprofit. His wife was on our school board. And so anyway, I had a grandson who now lives in Germany, but he had been a swimming champion and went to the Air Force Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came to sign up for 7 years, he refused. And so he started going to a place in, anyway, he went to another university, got a foreign exchange student, and his last year went to Germany. He wound up marrying a veterinarian who was in her last year. And so they had 2 kids, and now they're divorced, but anyway, that's a long story.
Grandnephew.
Yeah. So, anyway.
So when you were working at Bell,
Yeah.
And you were working on the LLTV and the RV, I recall when you're at the Aerospace Control and Guidance Systems Committee meeting, people were quite intrigued with what the analog controls that you had designed to make that, and as opposed to everything would be digital right now today.
That's right.
And how did you blend all those things together then? Because
well, I also tell the story in my book about NASA contracts wanted to bar me from the program and going to work for Bell because they knew I was going to raise the price. They did $5 million to design and build 3 vehicles. And so I had upped it to 8, I think, and it turned out it cost them over $100 million because of that decision. But
they should have just
I
paid
became
you
known
more.
as Mr. X. So when it came to contract negotiations, I had all the drawing files across the street from where the contract negotiations were going. And so when the contract negotiations would caucus for private, I had all the drawings in my 4-drawer filing cabinet. So
Pretty sneaky.
Mr. X would be called in to answer any questions. And so that's how I survived that. But,
How did it go from 8 million to 100 million?
because they screwed it up, they wanted to do all the testing. And so they carved out a couple of million out of the 8 million or something, we got the contract. And they took on all the testing, and they lost 2 vehicles they lost because their staffing was unable to handle it. So that's how I got 100 million, because they lost 2 vehicles because of it. They lost Neil's LLRV flight, and they lost the first flight of the LLTV, which never got to being tested because they took off in a wind shear on the first LLTV, and Algrani is flying it. And when he rotated at the wind shear, he rotated 90 degrees right, came back through 90 degrees left, and started sinking at 130 feet per second. And he ejected at that time 0.3 of a second before impact. And he survived. There's no testing on the first LLRV ever that got made. That's why I can say it's probably $100 million.
Isn't that strap over there what held Neil in prior to the?
That kicked him out.
Okay, yeah.
Of
You should take a look
it's
at
called
that.
the butt snapper, and it's sequenced automatically so that when the ejection seat gets to its top altitude, it kicks it out.
So that separates him from the ejection seat, so
Yeah.
it's parachuting with
Yeah.
flight on his on the camera.
That hurt.
Yeah.
You should tell the story about Neil coming in after
Oh,
he got
I think I
ejected.
did. Didn't I, about him lisping?
No, you haven't told me that.
Oh, okay, well, I'm sitting next to him, and he starts lisping, and he didn't realize he had bitten his tongue, and it's swollen up, and so we finally got through that.
So did you used to do some high school related visits?
Oh, yeah, I did. As a freshman, I met
Yeah.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Ah.
That's pretty historic. Anyway,
So did you do that with Neil then, that visits to the high schools then for what we would call STEM today, or?
no,
No, okay,
no, I never was able to get anybody
okay.
to go with me, but I have a lot of boards that I would lecture with.
Yeah.
The kids love the story about Ham the Chimp.
About who?
Ham the Chimp, it's over there. And they love it because Ham was able to make a shortcut to get his banana chips out. And but when Bickle came back for an X-15 post-flight, he told a story about Ham the Chimp being smarter than the guys that designed the software to get his thing. So the kids love that because on the video, they had shot him up. They thought they'd exposed him to all the dangers, and he was doing the shortcut until he got exposed to the escape tower coming off. And as soon as that happened, he starts doing his banana chips the way he was talking. And so that was the story that the kids. Is that door open?
No, someone's just exiting right now,
Or
making a shortcut here through the room. So,
It's a habit, it's force a habit.
okay.
so you've covered a lot of territory. Did you ever get to the more modern side of Blue Origin, or get it visited?
Yeah, we went down. Bob went with me, and
Yeah.
we gave a talk down there.
We
Sold some books.
we set up a table at the Scott Carpenter Park in Boulder
Yeah.
when he first got his first batch of books published, and so we were out there with kind of a book party at the park, and a fella came up that just happened to be there with his kid, and he worked at Blue Origin, and he was just gushing over the book, and then he says, well, I'll set up a talk. And so we went down to Blue Origin, and they had a pretty full room, maybe 30 people or so. He probably sold 20, 30 bucks. It was pretty good. So,
And they gave me some nice rewards for going down there, as well as buying the
yeah,
books.
he got some Blue Origin swag. But I guess they're leading, or they're in
They're
leading
gonna
a
be
competition
us,
now.
I think.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
HLS.
I just heard this morning that SpaceX is delaying their launch too close to the IPO.
Was that the reason?
Yeah.
We lined up for it last night. We got
Yeah.
all there, all ready to go. All ready to
My
do.
guess is, I mean, and they've had a pretty bad record. Last year was pretty bad.
Well, reliability-wise, out of 4 or 5 failures on the big one, they had 1 or 2 successes, I think, at the most. It's not a very good reliability thing.
Yeah.
What was the most difficult thing you think of with the LRTV in terms of engineering perspective for controls? Because there were so many questions from you at this other gathering, I recall, on the control side and the
in the-
blending together of.
In the book, I have
And you had several firsts in that.
I said, well, the most proud thing I ever did was after the accident happened on the fire
The fire
that killed
Apollo.
the 3.
Yeah.
They, NASA gave the inspectors the veto of any deliveries of space hardware. So they would put the inspectors on all that stuff. And so I had 3 LLTVs on the dock ready to deliver. And the first 1 or 2 and then the next one. So they canceled all of it. So for a whole month, the executive vice president of Bell and I spent the entire day for a week or 2 and trying to come up with lawsuits, and we had Alcoa giving us help, and the issue was minor X-ray flaws in the structure on the landing gear, and
It's a welds, wasn't it?
yeah, and,
Weld joints.
and so these were very minor flaws in the X-rays, and so I finally, after a week or 2 of fighting it, I came up with a way to convince the inspectors. And so I asked them what their criteria was. And they told me. So I said, well, I'm gonna run you a fatigue test that shows you 10 times the amount of requirements you have. And we did it, and it cost us maybe 100,000 to run all those fatigue tests and show